So I would like to start with a short um, motivations. Um, in Buddhism, especially in Tibetan Buddhism, Mahayana Buddhism, and also it will also here in part of that, it is explained that the importance of the intention and motivations. Um, whether your act, whatever act, whatever your activities act, whether that activities become helpful, beneficial, or non-beneficial, healthy, not healthy, it depends on your intention, motivation. If you have the right intention, good intention, motivations, whatever you are trying to do become more meaningful and more powerful. And if we don't have the right intention and motivations, then even the act of trying to do something positive might not become as positive and as effective and helpful due to our own not having the right intention motivations. And so therefore when we start any activities, especially when you're trying to do any spiritual activities, then we'll try to generate we'll try to cultivate as pure, as good intention, motivation as much as possible. Okay? So in order to do that, first we need to quiet our mind. And to quiet our mind, you can try to keep your attention to the breath as you breathe in and out. And simply just watching and being aware of your breath. Then we can try to reflect and think, the purpose of my life, or meaning of my life, is not only just to be concerned with our own well-being. That will be too limiting our own great potential. because we are much more capable than that. Therefore, the purpose of my life, or meaning of my life, is to be help, benefit, and service to not only oneself, but all sentient beings, living beings, as much as we can, directly, indirectly. Those which we can help immediately, directly, we try to do as much as possible. Those which we cannot help directly at the moment, we try to keep in our heart, thoughts, prayers, send them all the positive energies, prayers. And in order to be more beneficial and helpful to oneself and others, we need to reduce and overcome our negative thoughts, emotions, the defilements, which are the source of the problems. For oneself, for others. And we need to cultivate and develop all the positive emotions, thoughts, such as true love, compassion, wisdom, patience, sense of contentment, so forth. Which are the source of our own well-being, happiness. As well as and cause the conditions to be more help and benefit to others. And in order to reduce and overcome those harmful, destructive, negative thoughts and emotions, and to increase the positive emotions, helpful positive emotions, we need to reflect, contemplate, meditate and practice. And in order to do that, we need to be reminded of those practices, meditations, as well as continue to learn about them. For that very purpose and reason that I'm going to listen to the talk. And by listening to the talk, reflecting, contemplating on the topic, the subjects, may it be cause and condition to actualize our own highest potential, the fully awakened state. So we can be greatest benefit to others and oneself. And whatever any meaningful, helpful that we learn, may I be able to implement those in my everyday life. Sangye chodan soge sonam la chanjo padu tani jatongje tagi jeso shebe sonam ki dola penje sangye dubash. Sangye chodan soge sonam la chanjo padu tani jatongje tagi jeso shebe sonam ki dola penje sangye dubash. Sangye chodan soge sonam la chanjo padu tani jatongje tagi jeso shebe sonam ki dola penje sangye dubash. So, starting with today, during this weekend, the topic that we are going to be discussing is based on this text, which is very short, but which contains very powerful and method to transform the difficulties, the challenges, that we might face in our life into something positive, how to transform them in positive, how to transform them into a path, how to transform them from suffering to happiness, from obstacle to opportunity, from hindrance to opening of new opportunity and so forth. And so I would like to kind of give a little bit kind of general how these teachings fit within the general framework of the Buddha's teachings. After Buddha's enlightenment, for more than 45 years, he shared his wisdom, his knowledge, and through his teachings, and the returning of the will of Dharma. So all his teaching that he gave during that period So we're kind of categorized into three. The first turning wheel of Dharma, second turning wheel of Dharma, third turning wheel of the Dharma. And all of those teachings can be contents in the, the teaching to actualize our potentials, the highest potentials, the fully awakened state, the path of the bodhisattva, and then the the enlightenment, or of the solitary realizer and healer, for those who are more inclined and more who have those kind of predisposition towards such path. So the teaching that that this one fall within the Bodhisattva's teachings, the path of high scope. So all those Buddha's teachings are directly, indirectly taught to overcome the fundamental ignorance and selfish attitude. Those are the two main cause of our problems, due to the fundamental ignorance of self-grasping and selfish attitude, self-centeredness. Due to that, then other afflictive emotions and delusion arise, as anger, hatred, and sense of grudges, resentments, and strong attachment or strong desire, craving, greediness, jealousy, sense of delusional pride, arrogant, never been due to the kind of strong desire and attachments, never being satisfied, the mind of dissatisfied. All of those, and due to all of that, attachments, so forth, then fear, worries, anxieties, all of those emotions arises, and due to all of those different negative emotions, then our mind is disturbed. Our mind is disturbed. And when our mind is disturbed, then there's no more peace in our mind. And not only it affects emotionally, but it also affects then physically as well, when our mind is disturbed and unhappy. And not only it affects us, it affects the very people around us. When I'm not happy, and when I'm not happy, then my reactions will be more negative towards people around me. When I'm happy, my reaction will be different to the situations that is happening in your life and people around you. When our mind is not happy, and when our mind is disturbed, when our mind is overwhelmed by a lot of those problems, then small things upset us, trigger us. and then we respond in a very negative way, which creates more problem and suffering to oneself and others. On the other hand, when our mind is more calm and peaceful, not disturbed, then even same kind of situation will not kind of disturb us easily, trigger us easily. We can respond with much more positively, more calmly. And so all of those negative emotions, delusion, defilements arise due to that fundamental too. And so in order to, so Buddha taught all the teachings, either directly, indirectly, in order to overcome practice or method or meditation techniques to reduce and overcome those defilements, especially the very root of those defilements, the fundamental ignorance, self-grasping, the selfish attitude. In order to overcome those two, selfish attitude and or self-centeredness, egoistic mind, and the fundamental ignorance, then we need to cultivate the antidotes that counter those negative emotions. And that is, in order to counter the selfish attitudes, the self-centeredness, then we need to cultivate more loving kindness, compassion, the awaken mind of bodhicitta mind. In order to counter that the ignorance, we need to cultivate the wisdom that realizes the ultimate truth or reality. And so all the Buddha's teachings are geared or taught directly, indirectly, in order to cultivate and fully develop those, call it the wisdom and the method of loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta mind. So also in this, also in this text, the author also explained that. So that is how it fits within that. In terms of the practice, the bodhisattva path, teachings. Bodhisattvas means those for anyone who have cultivated the great loving kindness, compassion, and the awakening mind of bodhicitta. That is what we call someone bodhisattva. So. So then that is how it fits within the whole. And then in terms of the lineage of how it was passed, the teachings, basically there are kind of three main lineage, the method lineage, the wisdom lineage, and experiential lineage. And in terms of wisdom lineage, from Buddha Shakyamuni to Manjushri to Nagarjuna and so forth. And method lineage, from Buddha Shakyamuni to Maitreya, Asanga and so forth. In terms of the experiential lineage, from Maitreya, from Buddha Shakyamuni to Doje Sangvajatara and Telopa, Narava and so forth. And so indirectly the author of this text, Atisha, the great Indian scholar, master, teachers around 10th, 11th century. Possess all those three lineages. Especially when it comes to this, these teachings is fall into a categories of so-called mind training teachings or Lojong. And especially those teachings, Atisha, who came to Tibet and revived Buddhism again. So he was like the founder of the Lojong teachings. Of course, they are based on other earlier teachings of Indian masters and then back to Buddha himself. But it became kind of more well known, those teachings through Atisha. And in terms of those, it is said he learned those teachings mainly from many three of his main teachers on this subject, Lojong. One of them, Lama Atisha, it is said that teachers had so much love and compassion and bodhicitta mind that he had no hesitation to be able to even give his flashes in order to serve, others. And then another Champion Naljo, which literally means the practitioner of loving kindness. Another great teacher from here also, who always, it is said he always meditated, reflect and practice loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta mind. And then Selingpa, one of the main teacher, Lama Selingpa, and who used to live in Indonesia now a part of Indonesia. And Atisha, when he heard about him and his incredible stories, he was very inspired to learn, study with him. So then he crossed oceans in the boat for 13 months. And then he arrived there, and then he studied with him, practiced for 12 years under him there. And he always give credit for whatever loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta he have developed is due to that teacher. And he regard him very highly among more than 54 teachers he had in his life. He regard him in the very top because he give credit for whatever love, compassion that he had developed is because of him, his teachings and his example, his inspiration, and through that he practiced and studied with him for 12 years. So Atisha, Lama Atisha or Divankara, he learned all of that, and then he passed. Of course, in Tibet, then to his main disciple, Domdemba, and then Domdemba to other Kadama masters. So that is kind of intimable, kind of the lineage of where this teaching comes. in terms of author, normally it is given to Geshe Chekawa, one of the, again, Katamba master, Tibetan. But also some of the author thing is actually the real author is of this text is Atisha himself, especially the root. And then in terms of the sequences, then Chekawa kind of compile the sequences a little bit kind of mess, but so whichever, whether it's Atisha, whether it's Chekawa, doesn't matter. We have this wonderful technique, teachings. And it is said Geshe Chekawa was a very, according that he was, one day he heard someone reciting one verses from 8 verses of mind training, which this is also kind of based on, it's like almost like commentary to that, not word by word, but in terms of the meaning. He heard one verses, even if someone criticized me out of jealousy and so forth, may I offer him the victory, and may I take the loss or lost. May I take the loss on myself, and may I offer the victory to him. There's one verses of that in that chain. When he heard that, he was kind of, his mind just kind of like this, like light bulb going on, because it's so radical, just opposite of how normally we think. Normally we try to take the victory on ourselves. We give the loss to others. Nobody wants to take the loss on themselves. We don't want to give the victory to others. We want to take victory to ourselves out of strong selfish attitude. And when he heard it, it's something very radical. It kind of opened his mind, and he was so incredulous. No, it kind of, I'm trying that, I don't remember exact word, entreated, by that. So he wanted to learn more about that. He really wanted to learn more about that. And so then he asked who wrote that. And then he knew that someone told that it was written by another Kata master, Geshe Thamba. So he went to find him, and by that time he has died. He has already passed away. But one of his disciples, main disciple, Geshe Thubten, was still alive. And so he wanted to study and went and met him, studied with him. And then later he studied under the Geshe Thubten. And so that was how he got really into this. And then he not only he studied, of course, then he really integrated, implemented and integrated in his life, and he really practiced. And then he wrote this commentary. And he himself said, whenever he has any kind of fear and so forth, when he reflects on those verses, the 8 verses which this is based on, he said it helped him to calm his mind. And he found very, very helpful to calm his mind whenever he has some worry, fear about something, worry about something. So, and of course it helped him to develop more loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta, and to be more beneficial to not only himself, for others. And so this is kind of a little bit of background for this teaching. So here is saying, like all the texts, they always start with some kind of homage at the very beginning. And here, homage to the great compassions. So again, it is similar to the homage another great Indian master, Chandrakirti, made in his supplication, supplementary to his middle way. And in at the very beginning, he make a homage to the compassion, saying how compassion is so crucial in at the very beginning, at the middle, and at the end. He said the compassion at the very beginning is like the seed to develop our various potentials, our goodness. And the middle is like the the water that keep that seed alive, so it produces the plant. So it's like in the middle is like that. Not only you need compassion at the very beginning, but in order to continue on your path, to be able to maintain it on your path to the Bodhisattva path, first you need the compassion in order to enter the Bodhisattva path, the Mahayana path. But not only you need at the very beginning, but also on the path, in order to maintain and not come back or deteriorate, then you need the compassions, like the water at the end. And then also you need the compassion even when after you achieve the enlightenment, just like the fruit, to enjoy that, the fruit of your fully enlightenment, fully awakened state to be benefit to others, is through your compassion that you can be benefit to others. So it is important in the very beginning and middle and the end. And so therefore, and of course maybe it will come on. So here also, and again, because the main topic or the main essence of these teachings is cultivating loving kindness, compassion, and bodhicitta mind, how to maintain them, how to increase, improve them, and then how to bring those in our everyday life in dealing with difficult situations, challenges, and so forth. The essence of this nectar of secret instruction is transmitted from the master from Sumantara. So that was what I was saying about Lama Selingpa, from the now in Indonesia, Sumantara there, that Atisha himself received those teachings from there, directly from him, orally, not only just received teaching, but under his guidance, practiced for more than 12 years together. And then of course later And here is a nectar secret instructions. Some of those teaching in earlier it was not written; it was passed orally. The instruction for giving orally. And those teaching was not given very publicly to everyone, because not everyone had that kind of inclinations. And then the next verses, sometimes, in most cases, it come at the very end of the text. Here it seems. So maybe I might leave it on the end. And then the actual, as he said, instruction for guiding the disciples, giving 7 points. So it is that's the title of this text is called 7 Points of Mind Training, because there are many text teachings on mind training. And this one is known as 7 Points of Mind Training. So there are 7 points of the main. And so as you can see, the first is explaining the preliminary as basis for the practice, the actual practice. So there is a preliminary, and then actual practice, training in the awakening mind. So again, training awakening mind, the ultimate awakening mind, the wisdom that realizes the ultimate truth directly, and the conventional awakening mind, the wish or inspirations to achieve your highest potential, fully awakened state, in order to be greatest benefit to each and every sentient being, including oneself, driven by the great love and compassion. So, and then third is transforming the adverse circumstances in the path to enlightenment. So, how to transform all difficult, challenging, adversity situations, circumstances that we might encounter in our life into a path. Not only the adversary or difficult or challenging, but even also all the positive things that happen in our life, good things. Even the good things that happen in our life, positive that happens in our life, also transforming them into the path. But mainly focusing on that. Then fourth, the integrated practice of a single lifetime. So then integrating all those practice in a lifetime, kind of summarizing, kind of condensing within the practice of that. The measure of having trained the mind. So then, how do we know that we have developed that awakened mind? Or how do we know that we have kind of make a progress in this practice? The measure of that, how do we know? So explaining when we have make a progress, when we have make a certain progress in practice, then there are certain signs, internal signs. So and so that is the way it's explained. The commitment of mind training. So then, having practice in this, then trying to keep those commitments, so that whatever we have developed, cultivated, loving kindness, compassion, awaken the mind, that it does not deteriorate, that it does not disintegrate, so it continue to grow, improve, and develop further, and as well as not to harm and hurt oneself and others. I think here, 6 and 7, I think is kind of put into two. In Tibetan is tamsik, is the samaya of the mind training and the commitment of the mind training, so then it becomes 7. Okay, so that's the 7th point. Then coming to the first point, engage in the practice of preliminary before the actual practice. So in the verse it says, first train in the preliminaries. So when we talk about preliminary, in these cases there are two preliminaries. The preliminary before the actual meditations. When you are meditating, then the preliminary that we need to, before we meditate on the meditation, this awakening mind, then there's preliminary practice, and then there is general practice of preliminary. In terms of the preliminary before the session of each meditations, we start with the refuge and bodhicitta, because it is a Buddhist practice, so we start with refuge because it is a Mahayana practice. Then we start with the bodhicitta motivations, the practice, and then you can visualize, the Buddha of compassion, for example, when we are dealing with the loving kind of compassion, avalokiteshvara, and then we can try to see oneness inseparable from our gurus and all the Buddhas in that, and so you can visualize that, and then you can, in order to have success in our meditation and practice, we need to overcome the obstacles. We need to create the right conducive conditions for the practice to be more successful, and we need the guidance, blessing, inspiration from the Buddhas and the gurus. And so for that, then we try to do the practice of all the practice of purifying the obstacle and getting all the right conducive condition. Then powerful practice is the 7-limb practice. And so then you try to 7-limb practice. It can be short, middle, and extensive, depending your time, your depending on your inspirations, and that, and then again, very powerful way of accumulating merit, right conducive condition. You can do long, short mandala offerings, and then you can start with the 3 requests. The request to inspire us, to bless us, to overcome all the obstacles, all the obscurations, and to inspire, to bless us, to cultivate all the positive qualities, inner positive qualities, and inspire and bless us to overcome all the obstacles, external, internal, secret obstacles. So those 3, and then after that, you can kind of after that request, then from the heart of the Avalokiteshvara, the Buddha of compassion, then white lights, nectar flow, into yourself, and you can think, visualize, imagine, cleansing, purifying all your negativities, all the obscurations, especially the obscuration to actualize the realization of this particular practice, the mind training. So cleansing, purifying all the obscurations, especially all the obscuration that is obscuring us from actualizing the realization of this mind training. And then yellow light nectar flow, and then you can visualize the thing, you're receiving all the blessings, all the inspirations, all the positive qualities, especially the realization of this particular practice of Lojong. So that will be a kind of the preliminary before the actual meditations sessions. If you can do that, it will be helpful, beneficial, instead of going right into the meditation itself. Of course, you can go right into the meditation itself, but if you start with those practices before you actually go to the actual meditation, it can be more beneficial in long term. It is explained, if you see, if you observe the external things, especially the plant, in order the plant seed to produce its full potential plant, many factors are needed. Okay, the seed is the main primary cause, substantial cause for the plant. Of course, you need that, but it is not enough just to have that substantial cause, the seed. In order it to produce its full potential of the plant, or fruit, for example, so that it can grow fully, that it can produce a lot of fruits, then you need to clear all the obstacles. Maybe there is too many, rocks, so that the root is unable to expand or go deeper. So when it is not able to do that, then it is not stable and cannot produce the full potential. Maybe there's too many weeds, unwanted weed, which is taking all the energy. So that seed, the plant of the seed, is not getting all the energy. So you need to clear all of that. That's why we clean our gardens, clear that, to clear the obstacles. Then it is not enough to have the seed and clear the obstacle. Even you plant the seed and you clear those obstacles, but what you need is conducive conditions such as water, the heat, the light, fertilizer, all different, the right conducive conditions. Similarly, in our meditation and practice, the main, whatever meditation you are doing, whatever subject you are doing meditation, whether you are doing meditation of loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta mind, or ultimate truth, emptiness, or any other subjects, that will be the primary kind of substantial cause. But in order that to produce the plant of realizations, to produce plant of realization, then you need to the purification to clear the obscuration obstacles. And then you need to create a positive energy, the merit, as a conducive conditions. And definitely in our spiritual practice, then definitely we need the blessing and guidance and inspiration from the Buddhas, our gurus, and so forth. And so when all of them come together, then your meditation, your practice become more easier, more successful, less obstacles. Otherwise, even though you meditate for days, weeks, months, years, still sometimes you cannot make any further progress. You are stuck there. because of all condition not coming together. And so therefore, when all the factors come together, then your practice meditation become effective, more smooth, less obstacles, quicker result, better result. So, so that is why at the very beginning of your meditation session, if you can start with that preliminary, it can be helpful, beneficial. Of course, that can be, as I mentioned, it can be very short, it can be long, depending on individual, So that is the preliminary in terms of the session itself. Then in terms of the preliminary for the practice, as I mentioned, this practice, the Lojong, is part of the higher training of the greater scope practice. And so therefore, in order to have better result of that, you need to have good foundations. If you have better foundations of the practice of middle scope and small scope, then when you actually practice on this great scope, then it has better result because you have better foundations. If you don't have strong foundations of earlier practice, then again, it will not have the same result. And so therefore, there are 4 preliminary practices. So the first preliminary practices is meditating on preciousness and rarity of the preciousness of human life. Okay? Preciousness and rarity, how rare it is. And second, meditation on impermanent in general, especially that impermanent. Even though our life is very precious, with full of potential, but that will not last forever. The life does not last forever, it doesn't go forever. So, understanding that, how all conditioned phenomena in general are constantly changing, constantly decaying, constantly disintegrating. Not only all the other things, even our life cannot escape from that fact and that reality, end of the life, death impermanent. So, reflecting, contemplating that help us to not to waste this life and make most use of it while we're still alive. And then meditating on love causality, law of cause and effect, how every action has consequences. Positive actions has positive consequences, negative actions have negative consequences. That is the law of cause and effect. When we create certain cause and conditions, we experience certain similar result. And then fourth, meditation on the fall of cyclic existence samsara. As long as our life is driven by, contaminated actions or karma and the delusions, there is no real freedom, there is no real happiness. So So each of those topics are a big topic. If you are studying a Lamrim, the graduate path, half of that is on those 4 preliminaries. And so we don't have time to go details, but maybe I can just touch, reflecting, contemplating on this, the preciousness of this human life, how much potential we have as a human beings. And the preciousness of human life is not because of our body. It's because of our mind, our ability to use reasoning, cognitive ability. That is what makes human life precious. Because of this incredible intelligence of cognitive ability to be able to use reasoning, logic, all of that, it makes the best to develop our mind, to develop on our spiritual path. To develop our mind, to develop our spiritual path, it requires a lot of reasoning. No matter how smart some of the animals are, they don't have same level of such a complicated reasoning like human can do. And because of the human mind, the human can subdue even the most powerful, huge elephant, very powerful elephant. Even some of the fierce lion, tiger, they are able to subdue them because of their mind. Not through their mind, they come up how to do that, and that is all the progress that we have made even on technology in the external world in this world is all human mind, coming from human mind, ideas. But that mind, if it is misused, then it can be a source of distractions. If it is used in proper way, it can be a source of great happiness, peace for the sentient beings. Help to the sentient beings. Not only oneself, but the whole humanity, the world, not only just the humanity, all the animals, all the sentient beings. If we misuse it, then we cannot think it as a preciousness, But if we use it properly, then it becomes extremely precious. Yeah, human can come up with ideas how to save the whole humanity, how to save whole sentient beings. Idea and how to do it if we will implement it. And so therefore, and then of course, in terms of spiritual practice, a lot of those meditation practice to develop your mind, it requires a lot of analytical meditations, as well as concentration of that. Even though sometimes you wonder, some of those animals, they seem to be very concentrated when they are looking for their food. Sometimes it seems like they are more concentrated than us when they see their what they call their prey, and then move place and extremely concentrated. It's hard to know exactly what is going in their mind, but from externally it seems extremely concentrated. So with this human life, if we use it properly, in the right way, we can achieve peace and happiness this life. From Buddhist point of view, we can achieve happiness and peace in the future life. And we can achieve the happiness or total liberation, total nirvana from all the suffering and the cause of suffering. We can achieve fully enlightened or fully awakened state, our highest potential. So therefore, it has incredible potential if it is utilized right way properly. Of course, if we don't utilize it properly, then that is another matter. But it has that incredible potential, and so recognizing that potential is important. To recognize that potential every day and feeling that is important. And that is why this meditation is about. A lot of time we don't recognize how much potential we have. How much potential we have. And even sometimes we recognize, but we forget it. And then we feel we are worthless, valueless, just because maybe we couldn't accomplish something didn't go right way, there were some obstacles. So recognize, so through meditation every day, every day, every moment that we feel how fortunate and lucky I am to have this precious human life with such an incredible potential. When we really have that realization through meditation, then every moment we feel how fortunate, lucky we are. How fortunate, lucky we are every moment. And if you feel how fortunate you are every moment, we wouldn't be so, our mind wouldn't be so down just because of sudden instant or obstacles in our life. You will not easily be, your mind will not easily be down. And also when you understand that, how precious it is, then you want to use it for a higher purpose and not waste it. It's like you understood the value of a diamond. When you understand the value of the diamond, then you sell it, you use it properly to sell it where you get value for that, where you can solve your problem of financial problem for your whole life. Maybe it costs many millions. If you don't understand the value of that, you might just exchange that for one meal. Do you get it? Someone will say, I will give you 1 meal for $100, or you will be so happy to exchange it because you have not really understood its full values. So you wasted it for small things instead of fully utilizing it to fulfill, serve your greater purpose, to pay all your bills and not worry. Same way, when we understood full potential of human life, then we utilize it for higher purpose, greater purpose, instead of wasting it for a very tiny, useless for very small things. Not only it is also recognizing, not only is full of potential and precious in that sense, but also it is not easy, rare to obtain again and again. So therefore, since it's not easy to obtain again and again, therefore you shouldn't take for granted, and you should utilize while it is here. So it is in your hand now. You have to utilize it instead of waiting for the next time. And then next, as mentioned about the impermanent, such life does not last forever. Everyone's die, rich, poor, educated, uneducated. Smart, not smart. Anyone, no option. King, beggar. Everyone has to face that reality. That death is, so death will suddenly come. But the only thing that we are uncertain is when it will come. Death is certain, time of death is uncertain. Nobody really knows when it is going to come. Even though in our mind we think the age is on my side, health is on my side, the conditions are good, it will not come. But that might be just deceiving, just as it has deceived so many people, unexpected. We take for granted that we will have more long life because my health is good, we might think I don't feel any problem. We did the general checkup, everything is fine, everything is normal. But how many people every day who just had normal and then suddenly something happened and gone? Something. Yeah, even my mom, 1 day before she passed, they did a general checkup and they said everything's normal. That is what the doctors told them. So, and we have seen in monastery, someone who has been sick for a while and then someone who is healthy, and suddenly the one healthy goes faster than someone who has been sick, where everyone is expecting him to go early. Age, no guarantee. Children dying before their parent, children dying before their grandparent. And even in our life, how many of people we know who are much younger than us have died? So those are not guaranteed that we will have longer. So we never know when it is come. So death is certain, the time of death is uncertain. And what helps at the death? Only thing that helps is our own practice, our own mind. Nothing else. We leave everything behind. No matter how much wealth you have, you cannot take one penny, you leave everything behind. No matter how many friends, family you have, no one can go with you, you go by yourself. We come in this world by ourselves and we leave this world by ourselves. Even if they want to go together, they cannot. We leave everything behind. Even the very body, the life we cherish so much from the very beginning, even that we leave behind. Anything that we can take with us, From Buddhist point of view, it is your own practice, your mind, your practice, your Dharma practice, the imprint of your practice. So that with that kind of reflection, contemplation, meditation, then we come to some kind of understanding, conclusion that we need to practice the Dharma. Not only practice the Dharma, we need to practice the Dharma immediately without postponing, because time of death is so uncertain. And not only that, we need to focus more on Dharma, because at the time of, while we are alive, at the time of death, after the death, what really helps is our just Dharma, nothing else. And when we say Dharma, a practice that helps us to reduce those negative emotions, the antidotes towards those negative emotions, destructive emotions, the method, the practice, the technique, meditations, that is the true Dharma. That acts as antidotes to reduce those negative emotions. That is the real act Dharma. So when we talk about practicing the Dharma, that is what it really, it has to be true Dharma practice, has to be something that hits our self-cherishing thought, our ignorance and our anger, hatred, that can act as a antidotes that counter those negative emotions. If we can do that while we are still alive, we will have much more peace, more happiness, less emotional problems. At the moment, the problem in the world is more than the physical problem, is a emotional crisis. That is what we are seeing now more, especially in more developed countries. You have less external problem of property. People are not, of course there are people, still some on the homeless on the streets, but in general the majority are not starving. Majority of them, they have some help in health and all of that, living place. But more and more, like emotional crisis. That is a big problem. So, when we have that, we have less of those negative emotions. Definitely, we will have less emotional crisis. Our mind will be more happy, peaceful, calm. And then at the time of death, you have less fear, less struggle, less regret. So you will have more peaceful death. And then after death, because of all the positive imprint, then you will have a better higher rebirth. So Dharma is the one which helps at all those different stages, and nothing can help it. The wealth is not necessary that it can help us even while we're alive. Whether they are going to help us or whether they are going to make us more problem, we never know. Sometimes you see certain individuals, families, they had a much more happy life before they have wealth, more wealth. And once the wealth came in their life, then their life just kind of destroyed them. It happens sometimes. So it's not guaranteed that it will make your life better. And then definitely at the time of death it cannot help you. And definitely not after death. So if anything that helps, it's our Dharma practice. So therefore through that then we come back. And after the death, from Buddhist point of view, even though our body cease, but our mind continue carrying all the seeds, potential, imprint, all the positive and negative imprint potentials in the within the mind stream. And if you have more negative potential, imprint, seed, then it produces more unpleasant rebirth, and also more suffering, pain in that rebirth. If we have more positive imprint, potential, propensity in our mind stream, then it produces higher rebirth, more less suffering, and more joy, more happiness in that. And so the law of causality, the karma, what kind of experience we have, it depends on our karma, our own actions, the imprint of our actions manifesting. So if we have created more positive karma, more positive actions, then we will have more joy, more happiness. If we have created more negative karma or more harmful actions, then we experience more suffering, more pain. And that is law of causality, law of cause and effect. That is how things are. Just like external plants, when we create certain seed, when we plant certain seed, certain plant is resolved, plant is produced. And then even we have taken, due to our positive karma and our actions, even we have a high rebirth, such as in human beings, as long as we are in samsara, as long as we are still bound by, tied by our own contaminated karma and delusion, still we are not totally free from all the sufferings. We might have less gross sufferings, but still, as long as we have this life, we cannot escape aging and suffering that come with the aging. We cannot escape the death and the suffering of the death. We cannot escape, sickness. We can take all the cautious, everything right. We might not have, but you never know, And I don't think there is anyone in this world who have never got sick at one stage. Sometimes more chronic, and sometimes it's just headache, stomach, diarrhea, different things, but getting some kind of sickness. And then suffering of not getting what you want, suffering of encountering what you do not want, all of that in between. And mainly, the suffering due to our own delusions. As long as delusions is there, we will continue to suffer. As long as our delusions, you can be in an area where there's no one to disturb you, still you will suffer. Okay? As long as your delusions, even though you might own the whole world, still you will be suffering. Because of your craving, because of your dissatisfied mind, still you feel something missing, not enough. You have delusion, you might have just perfect health. You might have the just perfect families. caring, loving families. You might have the most perfect job you can think of. All of that, still you suffer. Still you are not happy. Still you suffer. Not because of the external situation, because of your internal situation. Your own mind, because of your own emotions. And we see that everywhere. Maybe we can see our own life, or we can see people around us from outside. Why are they so unhappy? They have a great job, they have good relationship, they have good health. What are they? Why they are so unhappy? But then you see equally unhappy. Someone who is good health is almost equally unhappy as someone who doesn't have good health. Someone who is rich is equally unhappy, someone who is poor. Someone who has good relation is almost seems equally unhappy with someone who doesn't have good relation sometimes. And because we are not happy from inside. Our mind is something still dissatisfied due to our own strong craving, attachment, dissatisfied mind. And then because of our own delusion, even the small things bother us, trigger us. The sound. The sounds that will upset you. The light is too you think, oh, it is too bright, it upset you. Or you think it is too not enough bright, it upset you. The tea is, too much sugar, not enough sugar. Too much milk, not enough milk. All of that. Anything can make you upset, trigger you, as long as we have this, as long as we have this disturbed mind. As long as our mind is disturbed, as long as we don't have peace inside, calm inside, our mind is disturbed, anything you look, anything you hear, anything you taste can disturb you. Make your life miserable, unhappy. So that's as long as we have delusion, our life becomes miserable. And so therefore, as long as we're in samsara, which is driven by the delusion, then definitely we cannot have lasting happiness, true happiness. And so therefore reflecting, contemplating on that. So when you reflect, contemplate, and when you really understand that, then you feel the importance and the needs to reduce and overcome those negative emotions. Even more than trying to fix the external things. Do you get it? Maybe today I feel there is too much, this tea is too strong. I might change to make it too lighter. But tomorrow maybe my mind change. Oh, it's too light, I need more stronger. And again we are not happy because it's too light, we want more stronger. Don't we feel that way, time to time, how we change? So changing, this does not, it only serves for temporary. It doesn't serve the problems. But if we have changed inside, if we have more sense of content, more satisfied mind, then it's too dark, still is okay, not big deal. Too light is not a big deal. Too much milk is not a big deal. Too little milk is not big deal. It doesn't affect and disturb you so much. And not because of the external things, it's because of your internal mind and situations. And when we understand that, we put more effort to work with our mind instead of trying to change all the time external. That is what we have been doing. We think everything's external. I'm unhappy because of this. I'm unhappy because of this. I'm disturbed because of this and this, and we will try to fix all of that. And still we are still disturbed, we are still unhappy. And if we keep on doing that, whole our life will be still same thing, unhappy and disturbed. No matter where you go, no matter with whom you are, no matter what you change, because the disturbance and happiness is coming from within, from inside, due to our own defilement, delusions. And so when you understand, then you put more effort to deal with that. And when you do that, then definitely, without having to change outside so much, you can still find joy, happiness, peace in your life. The external factors does play a role, but they are very small role. Is mainly from the mind that's making our life miserable, unhappy, discomfort. And so when you, through meditation on the force of samsara, and especially when we are under the control or influence of delusion, how our life becomes miserable, then you begin to shift your focus of trying to change things. Focus shift in trying to change your mind. Focus more on that. By focusing more on that, and then external things does not disturb you so much. So I think with that, we are still on preliminary. So with that, we just finished the preliminary and the practice. And so, if there is caution, I can take one or two cautions, comments, sharing. Yes, please.
Thank you. In the paragraph here, it says, giving and taking should be practiced alternately, and you should begin by taking from yourself. And I was wondering what that is.
It is explaining about particular meditations, imagine, visualizing, taking others' suffering and cause suffering yourself. And then imagine, visualizing, giving all your wealth, all your virtues, all the positive quality to others. So in order to develop love and compassion, so you do that. And so in terms of the practice, for some people who feel, who doesn't feel confidence and courage, or who doesn't feel comfortable of taking someone's suffering on yourself and giving your happiness to them at the very beginning, you can start with thinking and visualizing, taking your own suffering first. And when you train in taking your own suffering and problem, and then giving you all the happiness to yourself, and when you become more comfortable and good at that, then you can extend to someone who is close in your life, dear in your life. It's more easier to do that. And then when you are able to do that, then you can extend it to someone who is more like a neutral person in your life, and then slowly we train that to even the difficult person in our life, whether you call enemy or not. And then we extend to do to all other sentient beings. So it is a training meditation technique to cultivate more love and compassion through certain technique like that. And then that was saying starting with yourself. Yeah. So we definitely will talk more about that tomorrow. Any others? No, then we conclude here, and then we do the dedications. So we can dedicate all the positive energy, virtues that we might have created for the peace, harmony, and happiness of all sentient beings. And for the good health of all sentient beings. And for each and every sentient being to cultivate loving kindness, compassion, and wisdom, and actualize their own highest potential, fully awakened state. Yawadi nyudu da lama sangye tukyo ne doa chikya malupa te sala kwe pa sho changjo senjo rinpo che ma ke pa na ke kyu che kewa nyumba me ba yang kongwe kongdu pewa jo kare rawe korwe shingande pendang dewa malu chungwe chere senwa tinzin kya soye shape site padu tengyo tupzo jangse jamgun gyawe ten zinjong pewe kunsu toba shosong guwe lema tutu ba tazo duje gundu shakte. Thank you very much. Good night. Thank you for coming in a snow, dark and cold night, taking the effort. Thank you. Good night. Thank you.
Thank you.